talking about mental health. We got Kelly Kinkaid here, first aid with Kelly Kinkaid. What a great clip, Kelly.
Thank you, Sway. Good morning, Sway, citizens and team. You know, the conversation will continue always with mental health. And, you know, we just finished for Minority Mental Health Awareness for July. But I wanted to bring back some of our specialists to continue the conversation because we keep our word, Sway. We said we were going to bring these guys back.
We did tell them that.
We did. And so I have Dr. Kendell Jasper and Kainon Jasper here, Doc and the Dudes, to talk about mental health. And, you know, when our last conversation, we said we're going to have health discussions, Dr. Jasper.
Sure.
You know, and I think that one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you back is there has been a rise of self-appointed health advocates who are writing books, who are doing websites and blogs talking about mental health. And I wanted to get you all in here because this is what you do for a living, for life. Why is there been is it more comfortable for people to talk about it who really aren't specialized for it? Because you are a clinical psychologist, correct?
I am. You're trying to get me in a little bit of trouble, but
I just want you to answer the question.
I think that it's become a sexy topic. Absolutely, it's become a sexy topic for people to say that I go to a therapist. In the same vein that they used to say that I have a hairstylist that I see, every week or something, I guess as sexy as that. But I think that the issue is that the supply has to meet the demand, right? So we can talk about it, and it's great that we're having that conversation. Let me be absolutely clear. It's great we're having that conversation. But I think that the other part of that conversation is where's going to be the supply for all of these individuals who are in need of services.
Yeah.
Right? And when I say services, it doesn't mean that somebody needs it because they have a diagnosable mental illness. They just feel like they need a professional to talk to. So the other side of that is encouraging individuals to, follow through with this type of field. It's not that difficult. Now, of course, it's not the sexiest field because the money isn't the best. And if you're not a hustler, quite honestly, then you find yourself by the wayside, especially in a private practice type setting. But I think that it's become a sexy topic, but I think we have to be careful when we say, hey, listen, let's invest in this. And then someone goes to ask you a question. And you don't necessarily have the cachet or the knowledge to then follow up with an appropriate, responsible answer as to where to go, how to start, what it looks like, what are the expectations. And that's when you should volley it to someone who is the professional.
Right. Okay.
And say, hey, you stand up and I've gotten them this far. I need you to take over.
That's not going to happen, though.
Not at all.
No, people aren't going to just hand over clients or folks who are in need of food. You got these fake mental health experts or specialists that have risen in recent times, and you got
coaches,
life coaches,
you know what I mean?
That have no credentials.
No disrespect to life coaches.
They'll read a book you wrote or something, and then start taking your jargon and terminology and filtering through their process and come out, and it sounds close enough where the person who's not knowing, because mental health is such a new topic for us on a broad scope, people don't know how to. Let's say put me in a hypothetical. I need help. I need to be talking with you or Kainon. I need somebody. But y'all not at my disposal. How is an average everyday person able to tell who's real or not, who's going to be beneficial to that mental health or not? What are some of the indicators, the red flags you should look out for?
Well, I think first you start at who's licensed and who's not.
Okay, that's easy.
So we have to be licensed
in
order to practice, regardless of the state that we're in. So licensed clinical social workers, licensed professional counselors, licensed marriage family therapists, licensed psychologists, psychiatrists. And you can go to you can Google their licensing board, and they should state by state be able to break down to you the list of individuals who are licensed, who aren't. So that's probably a good starting point.
That's a good starting point.
Very good starting point for you.
What are the pitfalls because I want people to be able to reach the doc and the dude, people I know who actually put in work. You're working with high school students as we speak, black and brown high school students as we speak. You say that you should make sure that a person has a license. What are the pitfalls for an individual who deals with a person who isn't licensed, who isn't a professional, who isn't an expert? Could they give them wrong information? Could it make their situation worse?
Well, I think that's a pitfall regardless if they're licensed or not. Let me be clear, right?
Okay.
So everybody doesn't mesh well, right?
Okay.
We're talking about a relationship. So we have to establish some form of relationship, professional relationship or not. If it doesn't jive between us, then it's not going to work well, right?
Okay.
We don't build a rapport. I can't say certain things to you. You may not feel like you can say certain things to me. So some of that is about how we vibe. But I think some of the pitfalls there, definitely giving advice, right? The worst advice you can give is advice. I'm not in the advice business, right? Because what I don't want you to do is I give you some advice like you should leave your girl, and then you come back like, Mama, you
told me to leave my girl.
You told me to leave my girl.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So
I don't give advice, right? It's about the decision that you make, and what are the ramifications of those decisions.
Okay.
And you make that decision, and I can certainly support you and say, hey, you weighed the pros and cons. There's way more cons than pros. I don't know if that's the best decision for you, but ultimately I can't control what you do.
Okay.
But giving advice, bad advice, crossing the lines, boundaries happens often. You engage in interpersonal relationships with people, not always romantic relationships, but inappropriate, interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't be hanging out, right, to a certain degree. We're cool. Like we may see each other in the same space, but I can't be at your table popping bottles with you. Like that's not what we doing. Nah, fam, we good.
Okay. I think this is interesting. I think it's a good topic because I just see so many people out there now that's profiting off of folks who are desperately in need of help.
Yes.
Kainon, I wanted to ask you, you all go around the country talking to the youth.
Yeah.
For someone who's listening who is not, there might be youthful, what's your experience? Is it too late for someone, maybe in their 30s or even in their 40s, to get therapy?
Absolutely not. Myself, I have therapy from time to time, and I went through 5 therapists. You know what I mean? And I had particular things that probably are not your typical illnesses or ailnesses, but I had some things that I needed to deal with. But no, it's not too late. At 30, I think that's a good point because you're probably at a more clairvoyant space where you had some degree of life experiences, and now you can receive different things from people and what they're trying to give you. But no, not too late, and it's never too early either.
That's what I was gonna go into because I was speaking to my partner last night. And, we watch a lot of shows nowadays where they'll go into how we were watching Euphoria. And on that show, Zendaya stars in it, HBO. It's a great mental health conversation sparker. And they show how much of a child's environment shapes, like all of our issues as adults can stem back to some form of trauma, mild or extreme, when you're younger. So I was saying, I think as soon as possible when they can have conversations put them side by side of a therapist, would that be good? Or
it's absolutely good.
Like at 5 years old?
Let me explain something to you. I tell you, I see a therapist now. I know that comes from my childhood, and I'm gonna put them on blast so bad right now. I went to a public school in East New York, PS 202. It was a gym teacher named Mr. Heck, right? What he used to do after recess, when we all would be in the auditorium, he would pick 2 boys. Every day would pick 2 of us and make us fight each other in front of the whole school. Yeah. This went on every day. I thought it was normal.
What?
I thought it was normal. Like, I'm like, all right. And then after the fight, he raised one hand, like, everybody, yeah, for the winner, boo for the loser. But this went on every day. It was really like a gladiator school, right? And like I said, I thought it was normal. So you grow up with that kind of aggression.
That's crazy.
And people like, yo, why are you so aggressive? I'm like, I'm not aggressive. I'm not even mad, But, it started from there. It starts from that kind of trauma, and, it'll permeate into something else.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast with a therapist, and her client was talking about the same thing. Literally the same exact thing, but with a football coach.
What happened to that coach? Mr. Heck.
I don't know, but if I see him right now, it's on and popping.
Would you gonna fight him? See who win.
I might have to do the same thing. It's terrible.
Talk to him.
You need therapy too.
Yeah,
it was a sick environment.
You know what I find interesting is with people of color, we're still talking about people of color, and even just people of all colors still are having a hard time going to a therapist. What are ways, as far as when you all go to talk to groups, how are you making them more comfortable and it's making it more easy for them to go and search for someone to talk to?
Well, I mean, I think it starts when you walk in the door, right? You have to figure, first of all, you have to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to let us off the hook. And I have met a lot of therapists, and I think I've said this before, who go down that path in search of something for themselves. Like they're looking for their own answers, right? And that leads to some consistent discomfort, even in the room with other individuals that they're supposed to be providing services to. So I think that you have to have a comfort level with yourself in order to understand, number one, I can't help everybody, right? But I also have to make this a real experience. So nobody says that it has to be this stiff, Freudian type of, approach where I sit down on a couch in a suit and tie and I cross my leg with a pen and a pad and I just write as you're talking. That's not this process, right? This is we're in a philosophical, world, so to speak, and it doesn't have walls. So let's get comfortable with each other. I have to get comfortable with you to make you uncomfortable.
I think that's what allows us to be quite successful because we don't have those barriers, and it doesn't necessarily exist in our offices or our facilities. We go to your house, like we go to your hood. How you gonna diagnose somebody and you don't know the circumstances in which they from?
Yeah.
So to her point, you got young people being diagnosed. I'm like, you never even been to this young dude's house. He's 7 years old. Yeah, he move around, but it's 8 of them in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So he's always on the move.
Yeah.
Real quick, let me just say this. I think that the point is, if I'm comfortable enough with you, if I say something to you to make you uncomfortable, or I challenge you, then you understand that I don't have an agenda, right? I'm only here to help. And I'm going to say those tough things to you, and that's not going to ruin our relationship. You're just going to say, yo, doc, like that was kind of tough. Yeah, but it's real because I'm here.
This is what I want to do. I want to give out y'all information first and foremost, so people who, I'm going to open up these phone lines. I know they're going to get lit up, but some folks aren't going to be able to call in. So how can they reach you directly?
They can reach me. They can reach us at Doc and the Dude, at DOCNDADUDE. And
Doc and the Dude.
Yes.
Doc and the Dude, or just Doc and the Dude?
At Doc, not the.
Okay, just
no THE.
No TH. Okay,
yes, that one Seinfeld episode with no THE.
Okay, no TH. I got Doc. I got you, man. So Doc and the Dude, make sure y'all follow him. We're gonna open up these phone lines. Any questions you got in and around mental health? 888-742-3345.
I sit alone in my. I could trust, and also my son could trust. It was like looking for a unicorn.
That's Taraji right there.
Yeah, and she was testifying in front of Congress not too long ago. And Taraji actually formed a foundation in honor of her father that's really advocating mental health as well.
Yes, amazing.
And I think it's so important. And like she did say, it's like finding a unicorn, finding that right person that you can trust. Because a lot of people feel, and even people of color, they feel more comfortable talking to their girl, talking to their grandmother, Big Mama,
the bishop.
Big Mama, the bishop, and they're dealing with the problems themselves. And I think it's very important to find someone who specializes in that to help you find tools and resources, which makes it better. Where do you find that you unlock like that, like someone who isn't trusting and they're kind of hesitant?
Relationship, right? What I'll say to that is, first of all, you try shoes on before you wear them, right? In most situations. We aren't any different. There is no rule that says that he's been through 5 therapists. Now, I wouldn't say that was all on the therapist because I know my brother, but, he's tough nut to crack.
We're talking with, and I want to say we're talking with Dr. Kendell Jasper and Kainon Jasper, Doc and the Dude, who you all are our resident therapists, and we're talking about mental health advocates here. Yeah. But Kainon, you've gone through 5 therapists. When was that key that you knew, like, this not working?
Well, when I would start to open up and talk about who I am and some of the things that I was thinking and past experiences, some of the doctors, they couldn't relate. They became more enamored with the stories. They wanted to hear some of the stories and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, that's not where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to tell you that I have issues that I'm dealing with, at home with my family.
Yeah.
Out in the street. There's certain things that I was too comfortable with, and they didn't know how to get me there. So when I ran into the one that I do have, she's a mid-60s Italian woman. Father was a mobster, one brother a mobster, one brother an attorney. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she wasn't rattled or shaken at all by the conversations. She jumped right in, and she wasn't intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
So she may not have looked like me, but she most certainly can relate.
Thank you for that too, man. I want to talk about medications too, and the business of meds. Mm-hmm. The necessity of them and the business of them. But I want to take a few calls real quick, and to the callers, please, quick questions, and we'll try to get quick answers so we can get as many people as possible. Honesty from Syracuse, what would you like to say?
Okay, first off, I want to say thank you for bringing him on, because mental health with people of color is a huge, huge issue. And no matter how much we speak about it, it feels like it's still not enough.
Absolutely.
So my question is I actually dealt with depression and a lot of issues as a young teen, but my time is different now. I currently have a family member who's young, like 17, and is having a lot of suicidal thoughts and all those type of things. But this person is very closed off, does not talk to people, barely talks to family. I don't know how to break through.
Okay.
Well, I think that number one, I don't know if it's a he or she, but it's about that person. So I think that you support them, you listen, you encourage them, you tell them you're willing to go with them, you're willing to help them find someone that is a good a match for them, and I think you don't give up on them. Clearly, they have to meet you at times halfway, but certainly showing robust support is never a bad option. Mm-hmm. And letting that person know that you care and you're doing this out of loving care and concern. And that's,
we're trying. She doesn't even really want to talk about it. She doesn't like to speak on her issues. She doesn't like to, put herself out there. She's a very shy person.
Mm-hmm. I would say be consistent and persistent, right? Without being irritating. And even if you are irritating, this is born out of love. And this is your family member. So be consistent with it.
Honesty, thank you. Thank you, Honesty. You're a citizen.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Daquan and Callie, what would you like to say?
Good morning.
Okay. Robert from San Antonio, what would you like to ask?
Hey, Rob.
How y'all doing this morning?
Good
Doing
morning.
great.
Doing great.
Thank y'all for y'all dialogue in this conversation. It's Sway. Appreciate y'all calling me letting me on the show. I just wanted to ask, because I'm a mental health technician in the Air Force. And sometimes I feel, as far as medication go, I know it can be beneficial, but sometimes I feel medication is overused. I just wanted to get you guys' input on that.
Absolutely. It's overused across the board. It's not just as it pertains to psychiatric illnesses, but I think that people are always looking for immediate gratification and quick fixes. And I think that the propaganda that sometimes we put around medication is, just like that. Most psychiatric medications aren't antibiotics, where they get in and attack whatever infection is going on and addresses it. It takes some time, but I think that for people to think that you're going to be depressed one day and you're going to pop a pill, and tomorrow you're going to be able to get off the mat and go get on the swing and hang out.
Drug dealing is big business, man.
Speak on it.
Drug dealing is big business. Now you gotta know what's in opioids, right? It's an opioid. It's a lot of heroin based, opium based. You don't know what the side effects of that stuff are.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it, when somebody tells you the side effects is unknown or suicide or all kinds of mood swings, that does not cure what you had. What is it? Brings you to a state of homeostasis.
Yeah, like for a baseline. So you don't get in. And I explained this yesterday. to some young men that we're doing some programming with. So it doesn't get you to, over the hill. It gets you to a baseline, right? Because there's some physiological issues that you're having, and that's what the medication addresses. And in some instances, the medication is warranted. In some instances, there are other ways to address the issues that you have going on. So it's not always out there. And then the issue that we're having with side effects is very much about, how quickly we're putting medicines into the market.
Right.
Right. So 15 years later, you get that late night commercial. If you were having, mesothelioma, we got a class action lawsuit going on. Yeah, because we don't understand what the long-term effects of this are, because there's a lot of pressure for the FDA to approve these medicines and to put them into the market.
Is it a difference between the name brand medicines and then people who try to get the generic medicines that do the same thing? Like, aren't they rated on different standards? Or?
They are, but it's like splitting hairs in terms of the ingredients of it. The generic may not have the same shelf life. And it may not last as longer, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the same short-term impact. Okay. And they may change an ingredient here or there that is, it's a non-factor.
Okay. And it's different genetics. It's different from a male to a female, different ethnicities. Certain things work on me and you that won't work on
Tracy or Kelly.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm curious about? We've been having this conversation. It was when you said genetics and how, the amount of estrogen and testosterone you have can impact a medication.
Absolutely.
So Mario Lopez has been in the news recently because of his remarks about parenting of transgender children.
Right.
And I feel like that conversation should involve a therapist because we are all new to it, including that child. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't hear all of his comments. I heard some of it.
Okay.
And first of all, everyone has a right to their opinion, right? Doesn't make it right or wrong. That's all relative. It's just his opinion based on the knowledge that he has at the time. If he becomes informed and then he feels a certain way, it may be different from what he said when he wasn't informed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't think that your honest opinion based on your information at the time, I don't think you should be overly ridiculed for that. You don't be held accountable, but now get informed.
No, we agree. But I'm wondering, as we move forward into the modern world, there's going to be a lot more parents. Take it away from Mario Lopez. I feel like a lot of parents are going to be experiencing a 4-year-old who was born as a son saying, no, I'm really a daughter. What would be your remarks to that parent?
He do that to his brother, Kenny.
You saw that
So what happened to Mario?
The first part, KU. I mean, I think that it's been happening already.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to lay it up, K. I used to dunk, but I'm 40. So
you got it.
But, that conversation is happening already.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that some conversations are just about good old common sense, and it's counterintuitive, but not every conversation requires a therapist to get involved, right? I think that there's some common sense associated with having this conversation. I think that if you do have those types of questions and that 4-year-old comes in the room and it's out of your wheelhouse, then you say, okay, let me seek out a professional, right? No disrespect to WebMD, but every answer isn't on Googling and going to WebMD on how I respond and react. We got to have, this is a real life circumstance with real people. It requires some real folks getting involved, in the situation. And there are individuals who specialize specifically in those areas, and most developmentally would tell you that 4-year-old's opinion may change by the time he or she is 12 or 14. So let's not rush anything.
Okay, let me take one more caller. If we go quick, we could get more than one call. Let's go. Wayne in Buffalo, what would you like to say?
Wayne.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you for bringing Doc and the dude on, and thank you, Kelly Kinkaid, for all of this. As one that is studying to be a mental health counselor who stumbled into the field, we're truly needed because we offer a unique perspective, especially to our problems that face Black and brown people. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Wayne, you're a citizen, man.
G
from Miami, what would you like to say?
Hey, G.
Hey, real quick, thank you for allowing me to speak on this, and you guys made my day talking about this. I just went to a therapist like 6 months ago. I started for the first time in my life.
God bless.
But the question I have is, I have an argument with my wife because a lot of times I want to talk to the therapist about, what it's like to have the black experience in life and battling the white privileges, especially at the job. And I can't get that deep with my therapist. So I told my wife this, and she said, well, that's not necessarily what the therapist is for. And I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Why can't you get that deep with the therapist? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. It's your therapist. You should be able to talk to your therapist about what you feel comfortable talking about.
That's what the therapist is for.
No question.
Yeah. Right?
Like, he or she's very comfortable with billing your insurance or getting that check.
Uh-huh.
How
right.
to talk.
And so like Kainon, he probably have to go to find a therapist.
Maybe not, or just have that conversation with the therapist and say, hey, listen, there's something I want to get off my chest.
Okay.
And I want to talk about.
So he said something that was going on at his workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's another form of trauma. When you got to come into a workplace and you're the only one like you there every day, you come in, you're some degree of shadow boxing. You don't know what somebody's thinking, what their opinions are, what their past experiences are. And you got to come up there and deal with that every day. So oftentimes there's nobody who's more senior than you, who looks like you, that can help you navigate through that. And sometimes I feel like we can seek those people out as well. They may not have to be in the same work field that we're in, but there's ways to get in touch with people who look like you, probably been through some of the same circumstances as you as well. So, maybe it ain't the therapist all the time.
Doesn't always mean that's going to be the best therapist for you.
That's true.
Right?
Okay.
And the black experience in the United States of America is traumatic within itself.
Yes.
Right?
Indeed.
The psychology of racism and what falls out of that is very real.
Yeah.
For us.
Uh-huh.
All day, every day. We just can't have 400 plus years of this foolishness and think that it doesn't have a long-term impact on us and our mental wellness.
Okay. There it is. Gee, I hope that helps you. You're a citizen too. Absolutely. Once again, fellas, give out your addresses where people can reach you.
I'm going to pass it to you, Kay. You do it this time. Spell it correct. Spell it correct.
At Doc and the Dude, DOCNDADUDE.
There it is.
That boy's smart.
Kelly Kinkaid, what about you?
Yeah, before we get off Sway, I want to say thank you, Wayne. Please keep me abreast of your studies and follow me. Everyone follow me, Kelly Kinkaid, KELLYKINKAID. And I wanted to say, the National Alliance of Mental Illness has a wealth of resources for people who have family members who are suffering from mental illness. Go to that. It's www.nami.org, and it really can take you through a lot. It's very informational, but this is a conversation that I want to continue throughout the year. I want to thank you, Dr. Jasper Kainon, for coming, Doc and the Dude, and until the next time.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you, fellas.